Okay, everyone, let's get started here. Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on Kwiktag. My name is Allie Keller, and I'm in Sales and Marketing here at the TAM Group, and I will be your host. Joining us from Kwiktag today, we have Mary Miller, who will also be presenting today's webinar. So a huge thanks to her for taking the time to be here with us today. Just a couple of things to go over before we get started. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into the chat or questions windows, and I will read them aloud to Mary at the end of the webinar. And also, we will be recording this webinar today, so you'll be sent the recording within the next few days. So with that being said, I will hand things off to you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Ellie, and thanks everybody for taking the time this morning to join us. Our topic for today's discussion is AP automation for Dynamics GP, how you can integrate, automate, and save. Now, a quick heads up, a feature preview, if you will. I'm also going to throw in a little bit about our new expense management solution. So if you're looking for AP automation as the end-to-end solution of how to manage your invoices, how to go paperless, all of those things, great, you've come to the right place. If you want a little bit of a sneak preview for expense management, how that might also be able to accelerate your business processes and save a bunch of time and energy on that side of the equation of people submitting receipts and expense reports, then you've come to the right place for that too. We'll have a little bit of a highlight for that solution as well. So why change anything? Why automate? You know, everybody's talking about digital transformation and you know, going paperless has kind of been a theme out there in the industry for several years now. And you know, we've kind of come to a point in the market evolution, in our business evolution, where you know, we're constantly challenged to do more with less. We're constantly given more work, more effort that we need to put forth. And a lot of that effort, especially in small teams like accounting and finance and others like that, HR, legal, often in the same kind of situation, we're faced with all of these bottlenecks that you see on the screen right now, all of these challenges. And they come to life in many of the ways that we deal with invoices today. So as I mentioned, we're going to focus primarily on AP automation, but a lot of these same challenges apply for expense management and other processes probably that you can think of in your organization. We spend too much time. In fact, research shows that you spend 30 to 40% of your time, 30 to 40% of every day looking for documents and files and things that are either in a filing cabinet somewhere or even lost in your desktop or shared folder or drives or whatever. So we spend too much time looking for information that we expect in today's world to have at our fingertips. Office space, the space that, and I'm not talking about the show, the space, the physical space that we take up with file cabinets. In fact, we have some customers who have floor to ceiling filing cabinets of just paper, of back filing and archives over the years. And, when it comes time to find things in that shuffle, in that mix, obviously more time is spent, more energy wasted when you should have that information at your fingertips. When it comes to process acceleration and bottlenecks in that process, today what happens is very manual. Right? Things get what we call sneaker netted even in the days before the internet. We ran them around somehow, and usually that was us in accounting or operations, walking documents from office to office. Is this correct? Can I get your approval? Can you put the rubber stamp on and, give me the GL codes? All of those sorts of things. Manual processes have inherently built-in bottlenecks to them that just slow things down. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to pay the bills on time, right? We're literally trying to keep the lights on in our offices and for our employees and our colleagues and vendors and partners, et cetera. So the bottlenecks in that process are just simply unacceptable in today's environment. Add to that, the images on the bottom row here, visibility, can't keep up, and compliance. Visibility and compliance go often hand in hand. So if you are sneaker netting a piece of paper around the office, taking a whole lot of time, you're often leaving invoices on somebody's desk. What happens if they go on vacation, they're sick, they're out of town, whatever, and now those documents are sitting on someone's desk waiting, and you have absolutely no visibility into the status of that invoice, the status of that approval, and likely you're not able to reach the person who needs to approve it or give you information about those documents as well. So accounting again is left holding that bag of questions, and vendors are calling and everybody wants an update and you just don't have one. So keeping up As you grow, as you change, as your organization adds teams, adds locations, all of those things are great from a growth standpoint. But when accounting and finance and the operational teams that support them don't also grow and scale to keep up with that growth and change, the bottlenecks and the lack of visibility and the time spent continue to be compounded. Those challenges continue to grow. And certainly compliance. When it comes audit time, you've got to look in all of those boxes in those rooms, maybe even off-site. And Allie and I were just talking about how much snow there's going to be in many parts of the country right now. Nobody wants to have to go to an off-site storage when you're expecting lots and lots of snow and potentially not going to be able to get there very easily anyway. And right, when does audit time come around? Yeah, typically, unfortunately, the beginning of the year, right? So we're all in that situation at the time when nobody wants to go from place to place, dig out papers from boxes that have been in storage, throughout the year as well. So what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about dealing with this pain, the pain of not having visibility, the pain of dealing with too much paper? And that's really the source of it. We work with an organization called PayStream Analysts, and they are kind of the Gartner for, the procure to pay, the finance and operational processes within organizations. And based on their research that they've done over years and years, they've really nailed it down to this. This is their statement. PayStream believes that the appropriate approach to AP automation for mid-market companies is to eliminate the most urgent and prevailing problem, paper. So if we look at that from an organizational standpoint, not just in accounting, that's often where it starts, but not just in accounting, we realize just how big a problem it is and that we really need to do something about it. Well, getting rid of the paper, going digital, all of that sounds great, especially for the team, again, that's faced with that challenge, faced with the burden of keeping up with all of those papers. Well, we often have to make the business case to our management team, to our executive board, sometimes even to partners and internally across organizational departments to say why this is so important. Well, here's some numbers, also sourced from PayStream Analysts, that kind of can help build that business case. And I'm going to share a few of them with you. Jot these down if you'd like, because they can help really tell the story of just how much that time and lack of visibility and everything is costing organizations. So if you look at the metrics here, we have average processing time from invoice receipt to approval. Most companies, the novice companies that don't have any automation, that takes 45 days or more. Some companies, the ones in the middle, the mainstream companies that have some level of automation, but maybe are still doing some things manually as well, that takes about 23 days. The category on the right, innovators, they're the ones that have the most amount of automation. They've streamlined the majority of their processes. They see that go down to 5 days. 5 days, can you imagine? So what's the cost of that spread? Well, it can range from $15 for the novice side per invoice, that is, by the way, to $2.36. Now, that research is actually based on organizations who process invoices that come in both manually on paper and mail and electronically, somehow being sent digitally. When those numbers are 100% manual, 100% paper, that number goes up, that novice number goes up from $15 to about $23 per invoice. You can do the math, right? How many invoices do you process every month? Multiply it by 15 if you've got kind of a mix, 23 if you're doing everything still on paper. Pretty soon you can easily see the value of having some automation in place. And then some other metrics about organizations that have percentages of invoices received electronically and discounts captured and those sorts of things. So again, build those numbers into your business case as you think about the story that you have to tell, how you're sharing this message internally. Just a few other data points I'm going to share with you before I go into a demonstration of how Kwiktag specifically can help you solve this problem. As you're looking for that data, that support for why you should do something about this, why you should automate AP and other manual paper burdened processes in your organization, companies are still receiving a lot of invoices in paper. Maybe you can relate to this, especially in the, in that mid-market section here, the 43, 50% still coming in paper. And again, you can start to see a little bit more of a mix where organizations, small and mid-sized organizations, are getting more and more in email. So think of where you fit in that category. And then what do they do when they get those invoices in? I used to be an AP manager. I worked with GP. I know what this is like, this manual entry of invoices into the ERP system. Again, research supported by companies of all shapes and sizes across the United States, and they really have come to show that the smaller, the mid-market companies are those that have the greatest percentage of invoices being manually entered by the staff. So certainly some of them are starting to introduce automation, have documents be captured and sent in electronically, but you can see those numbers are much smaller for companies like us, where we're really still challenged by paper invoices coming in and manual data entry by our teams. Well, I mentioned we're going to take a sneak preview of expense management, so I thought I would just share a couple of data points around that as well. Well, if you look at expenses that come in today, right, receipts, you come back from a trip, or you have sales teams or services consultants come back from a visit with customers, partners, trade show, event, or whatever, 52% of expense reports are still printed and physically mailed to the accounting department. That costs on average about $26.60 per expense report, not to mention the receipts that get lost along the way that somebody can't find, that now you don't even have really the whole story to tell for an expense report that's being submitted. So automation can go a long way. We've seen it up to 600%. I know that sounds unrealistic, but the reality is that you'll be amazed in a very short period of time. Once you start introducing automation, even in phases, you'll start to see that efficiency gain. You'll start to reduce the stress that you're dealing with today from searching and lack of visibility, and dealing with those frustrated and potentially angry vendors or even employees if it's the expense management side of the equation. So with that, I'm going to jump into a demonstration, and I'm just going to switch screens here while we do that to share my demo environment over here. And what I'm going to demonstrate for you is how Kwiktag specifically deals with AP automation. So we're going to receive invoices electronically in my world, but they could be a mix of electronic or paper or even fax. I was talking to somebody yesterday who still gets invoices faxed in. That's okay. We can receive them that way too. The whole goal here is that when you look at the invoices that are coming into your organization, you want to make them digital as early as possible in the process. And then once they are into a digital centralized system, you don't ever want to print those files again. You don't want to print them whether it's getting somebody else's edit or approval on a GL code, and you certainly don't want to print it after you've completely automated the entry process, and then now you're going to have checks and payment batches approved. You don't even want to have to print them then. And this system enables you to keep those documents digital from the moment they enter Kwiktag to the rest of their, paper life, or now digital life. You'll never have to print these documents. So what does this mean? This is what we're looking at here is the Kwiktag Dynamics GP Professional Client. And the reason that it's called that is that this design in the interface, once we click into the tag step, which is step 1, you'll see very quickly that the look and feel and even functionality down to the arrows and the search lookups is designed after the payable transaction entry screen. But before we do that, let me just take a second and describe what we're looking at here. In this dashboard, we have our AP hat on, okay? So I'm Mary, the AP manager, and I've received a bunch of invoices into my organization. I have either scanned them into this system, or I have emailed or uploaded them into my work queue. And so those are the invoices waiting for me to take step 1. We call it tag. Kwiktag, you maybe can figure out where that part of the name comes from, right? Tag is step 1. We have to give it some indexing information. Step 2 is edit. So maybe we need to edit the GL codes, maybe we need to edit who the approver is, maybe something else is changing. And then finally we have the approval step. So those are the 3 steps. We're going to take step 1 of tag in the GP Pro client, and then we're going to approve it elsewhere in another stage in the product. But we're going to start here. So invoices have come into our system. I have this queue of invoices. I can see the list on the left-hand side and the image on the right as I click on each one of these, okay? Now, you're probably not going to have invoices in your queue from almost a year ago, but in my demo environment, I like to be able to get at ones that I know very quickly, so I have some that are here to show the amount of time. But we're going to start with one by right-clicking. We're going to kick this invoice off on a workflow by right-clicking, and we're presented with this list of workflow options. Now, in my demo environment, I've got several you can see. In your situation, you're probably only going to have 1 or 2. I'm going to go ahead and pick New Invoice Approver Selection. What does that mean? Well, it means by looking at this invoice from Advanced Office Systems, I know who needs to approve this. Well, office supplies, those all go to the CFO. So I see that it's a new invoice. I'm going to select the approver, and it's going to go on its merry way. No pun intended. So the invoice comes in. We say we're going to tag it. That's the workflow option that we've selected. Now here again is where I mentioned the left-hand side of your screen. If you are a GP user, this looks very familiar to you. If you happen to be an SL user, by the way, we have a similar experience for that ERP system where we have an SL professional client. We're going to focus today on GP though. So this data right now, as you can see, is blank, and some of these fields are even grayed out. The reason for that is I first need to select a company. I've got 3 different GP companies. Now even that, let's just talk about that for a second. If you have multiple GP companies and you receive invoices into a centralized AP team and need to select which company those invoices are for, that you can of course see right here on the invoice itself, you can select which company is right from this dropdown. Think about just that time savings where right now, if they're doing it manually, they're logging into company 1, they're doing the data entry for those invoices. They're logging out of that company in GP, they're logging back in as company 2. Right there, you're going to start to save time just by selecting which company, because the GP Pro client from Kwiktag is real-time connected to GP. So I can instantly see which companies I have visibility into. Now I can put a description here. We're going to put TM Group Webinar so that we can follow that along. Now, of course, that's going to print in the memo line of the check. You may or may not want that description, but just for fun, we'll put it there anyway. Now, I mentioned we're real-time connected to GP. So just like in GP, I type ADV and I get the type ahead options. Now, if I wanted to do a lookup, if I wasn't sure, if I've got multiple vendors that have similar, beginnings of names or whatever, I could do that lookup here, and I'm presented with all of the vendors that are available to me from GP. Okay, then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just do a quick select. I grab that invoice number and put it in the document number field with a copy paste. And I can see my total amount here is $200. I'm going to go ahead and 10 key that in. I could copy and paste it too, but just as quick with the 10 key, so what the heck. And then we're going to take a look at our GL distributions. Now, if we have vendor defaults, GL distributions as vendor defaults on our vendor card in GP, those are going to populate automatically here for us. So a really simple, I'll call it data entry experience, but it's really kind of data entry light. We selected 2 fields. We selected the company and the vendor. We copied and pasted the document number in, and we entered the amount and verified the GLs. So pretty quick and simple. If I was doing an intercompany transaction, by the way, I would go ahead and check the box at the top there. We're going to send that to Mary CFO. I would check that box, and just like native GP intercompany, I would be given the option for those GL distributions for due to, due from, to distribute that transaction across multiple companies. Similarly, if you're using binary stream multi-entity management, we support that as well, and you could just as easily distribute invoices across multiple entities using that service and that software. So however it is that you're handling multiple companies within your organization, if you have them, we can support that in this environment with Kwiktag for AP automation. Okay, so our data entry experience here is pretty much done. We're going to save this as a template. What does that mean, Mary? Well, I'm glad you asked. It means that we're going to have all of this information available for us the next time we receive an invoice from Advanced Office Systems. Now, in this case, again, I've got the word case, so no pun intended, but in this case, I'm ordering for specific PC portfolio cases. So maybe every time I order these, maybe I have to order this every month, every 2 months, whatever it is. I'm going to save this as a template. The next time I receive an invoice from Advanced Office Systems for this product, all of this information, including the GL distributions, including the approver, are going to be there for me. The only thing that I'll have to update are document number and date, which of course you would expect to be different. Now, if I want to save it as a template without any data here, so that it's just the header information is automatically populated, save me that step of selecting the company and selecting the vendor, I can do that as well. So obviously, if you order from the same company, but different products on a regular basis, the amount's going to change. So then all you need to enter is the amount and validate the distributions for the GL codes. And then of course the document date and number. So I'm going to submit this. We're going to get a warning because this document number is a duplicate in Kwiktag. Now, if it was also a duplicate in GP, I'd get that warning as well. So I'm going to say no, and I'm going to put today's date so that we're creating a unique ID. because we're doing that duplicate check before the invoice even gets submitted for routing and approval. But once we click that submit button, this invoice is now out of our Kwiktag work queue. We're taken back to our work queue and we select the next document, right click, select the approver workflow, etc. But now let's take a look at that Advanced Office Systems invoice one more time with the template. This time we're going to select the template because we already did that data entry. And when I select template as the workflow option, I'm presented with a list of templates, as you might imagine, regardless of who they were created by. So we called this AOS monthly. And so we'll just filter down a little bit there, and then cases, there it is, AOS monthly case, that's the one. I select that, and if anybody else on my team, anybody else on my accounting team had created a template, it would be there for me. I picked the wrong invoice, sorry about that, I was clicking too fast. But you can see on the left-hand side, all of that information is populated for me, the header, the GL distributions when we drill in here, as well as the approver that this invoice is going to get routed to. So I'm going to cancel that. But when we are presented back here, we'll have that option for next time, regardless who creates the template. Okay, so once we submitted that invoice, our tag step is done. We routed it for approval. We routed it for approval to Mary CFO. So I am now logged into what's called the Kwiktag web interface. It's called KTX. And what KTX enables you to do is have access to all of your tasks, all of your drawers, all of the other features and functions that you would expect in Kwiktag, searching documents, finding things, user preferences, all of that sort of thing, case management. But tasks is where we're going to route things for an action item. This is something I have to do. I have to approve it. So I'm in here into my tasks module as Mary CFO, you can see in the upper right hand corner, and we're going to go right to invoices approver selection because that's the workflow path we sent this invoice on. So I'm going to do a quick date search here, and it's going to be right at the top of our list. The Advanced Office Systems invoice that we just routed for approval is here visible for us, available to approve, reject, or delegate. Of course, I can see the GL codes here as well, and I can see the workflow history. So I can see it, get a quick glance at what's going on with this invoice, where it is, that visibility we talked about earlier. I can see that very quickly with a click of a button here. Now, before I approve this, I want to show you another option. Maybe I'm on the road quite a bit. Maybe I'm, hanging out, meeting with clients and partners at Starbucks. So I don't have, my laptop set up and I'm not connected to the system all the time. But I always have my phone and I always have email on my phone. So I can just as easily get an email notification of this invoice approval. So I can scroll down, I can see all of the detail, I can check out the GL codes to make sure they're correct, and I can click approve. That creates a reply email, and all I have to do is hit send. I can click reject and say, no, this isn't right. You need to code this to office supplies instead of vehicles or whatever. And I can even view the document because it's attached to this email message. So everything that I need to make an approve or reject decision, I'm presented in an email experience just as I am given that option here in the online experience. Now, as you can imagine, in an online world, if I've got all of these to approve in a given time, maybe in a week or a month or every couple of weeks, maybe a couple times a week even, I'm probably going to do that here. I'm going to, set some time aside and come in and review everything and look at all of these and do an approval and reject that kind of thing. So we're going to go ahead and approve this and put OK to pay and send that along on its way. Now, again, I could have just as easily done that in the mobile environment, but we're in the KTX environment where if you're not familiar with what's new with Kwiktag, if you haven't seen it in a while, that experience, that interface might look new and different to you. And I would encourage you to request a demo about what else that is going to enable you to do. But for this purpose, we're going to go ahead and then that was our final step of approval. So now we're going to go ahead and log into GP and see how that transaction manifests itself with the payable transaction entry created as a result of that workflow approval. So if you're not familiar with Kwiktag, we attach to the additional menu inside of GP, inside of 79 different screens out of the box. The most commonly ones used, of course, are in the purchasing module, financial module, as you can imagine. But we have others as well, the vendor card, the HR, and other sales aspects, inventory, that sort of thing. And if we're not there, chances are we can add that functionality if you need it. So but we can tag, view, and search documents. That's the out-of-the-box document management functionality that comes with Kwiktag as you get started with just going digital, getting rid of the paper, that sort of thing. But with workflow, like we just did with the AP automation for invoices, we come here to view the work queue. So what does that mean? Well, it means that any invoice that has been routed for approval through the Kwiktag workflow process upon final approval, one or many levels, because maybe that invoice needed to go to somebody else to edit the GL codes. And then maybe it needed 2 levels of approval if it was more than, 5,000, 10,000, whatever your threshold is within your organization. All of that can happen based on the workflow rules that we work with you to configure. But upon final approval, whether one or many levels, it comes to the Kwiktag work queue inside of GP, and that's what we're looking at here. So we can see it here right on the top of our list. Now I can right click and I can just go ahead and create a new batch. I can view the document just like we've been working with all along, make sure it's the right one. Or I can see all of the details, all of that transaction data, GL codes, et cetera, who approved it and all that kind of stuff. Or I can just hover over here and see the GL codes if I want a quick glance at that. And the reality is, when it's kind of funny, when companies start using Kwiktag, they do this religiously. Every time they're going through their work queue before they create the PTEs here by pushing this button, they validate everything. They look at the details. They view all the documents. After they've been doing it for a couple of months, they were like, yeah, it's there. I get it. I know if it didn't go through approval process, it wouldn't be here, but it's here, so it did. You'll get that level of comfort as you gain efficiency and productivity with the tool as well. So we're going to go ahead and select the one that we've been working with and create a payables batch. So I'm going to just select what I created yesterday, and I'll put it into an open batch, or you can let GP default to the next available batch. So we'll go ahead and say OK to that. And you see that invoice disappeared out of my queue. And now when I come back to my lookups, I will see that that invoice is available for me as a voucher in this list. Give me 1 second here. I didn't pay close enough attention to the number. That might be it right there. Yep, there it is. Okay, so description TM group webinar. So you're going to, again, get used to that. You're going to be pushing them in with a select group of invoices. You could do control select, multi-select, all of those sorts of things. So here's the payable transaction, description TM group webinar, document number created, all of my vendor information is here, my purchasing information is here, the GL distributions are already created for me as part of this transaction, and now when I come to additional view documents, I'm able to see that invoice as an attachment. Now, this is different from Doc Attach Native in GP. This document is actually stored in Kwiktag because the additional menu beginning here with tag documents, tag, view, search, work queue, delete, and about, these are all Kwiktag enabled functions that you're able to take advantage of inside of GP. So when I click view documents, I'm viewing the document visibly in GP, but it's actually stored in Kwiktag. Let's take a look at that. So we'll come back over to KTX, the online environment, and now I clicked over the tab. If you blinked, you missed it. I'm now logged in as Mary the AP person, just like we began the process with, and we'll take a look at our drawers list. Well, what are drawers? Drawers are the digital manifestation of all of the different document storage places that you're going to have for each one of those 79 screens out of the box in GP that we create for. So if there's a screen like the payable transaction entry that we were just on in GP, that digital drawer here inside of Kwiktag is where I will find all of those documents. So here I can see the document again. I can see, and this is really handy at audit time too. I come over to the little hamburger menu on this row. I can click workflow history and see all of that detail as well as the document presented to me here. Now the value in that is not all of your accounting, HR, finance, or operations team might be GP users, right? But they still need to access documents, and especially at audit time, you're going to want somebody to be able to log in, find things very quickly, and show that workflow history, show that audit trail to make sure that you're complying with all of the regulations that you need to adhere to for your organization. So you can see all of that right here, and then drill into any of the other files that are in that drawer simply by searching or filtering or exporting, selecting, all of those sorts of things. So these are the digital drawers created by Kwiktag that match to all of the 79 different screens in GP where you have that option, tag, view, search, And when they've gone through workflow history or workflow, you can see all of that history and supporting documentation here as well. So that's the end-to-end AP automation story. But I mentioned I'm also going to give you a sneak preview to Quick Expense. So we're still logged in now as Mary CFO. I'm going to hop over to the Quick Expense experience. And this is for receipt submission, expense report creation, expense report routing and approval. And then finally, as approved by the one or many levels that are required for your expense reports, just like your invoices, they get created inside GP as a payable transaction entry. So that's what the experience looks like for CFO as approver. But let me just show you something really quick on the AP side as well. You notice I have two different modules here. As CFO, I only had a Quick Expense module, but as AP, I have Quick Expense and Reconcile. So Quick Expense, Mary, the AP person, she might also submit receipts from time to time. Looks like I have a few here. I could also switch user because we have the concept of delegating users. Maybe one person or two people support a number of different either managers or salespeople or whatever and are able to process expense reports on their behalf. You can do that here as well. But the real key thing for the accounting user is she or he also has a reconcile option. What this enables people to do is quickly see the visibility of corporate card usage. You can see in my example, American Express is the card that we use for corporate card processing here. But if you used any of Visa or MasterCard through whatever bank you choose to work with, you simply download that statement from the bank and Quick Expense will parse all of those transactions and assign them to their respective users. And then, again, remember I'm Mary, the accounting person here. I click on Mary's current statement and I can see she's got 3 missing receipts. Well, check this out. I can just come up to this little option menu here and I can send the missing receipts right to Mary. I can tell you what used to happen here, even in our organization, and I've worked for other companies where it's been very similar. We used to get the statement from the corporate card vendor, and our accounting team would then make multiple copies of it, covering up all of the transactions that were not specific to the user for each card, and then route those manually, on paper around, leave them on our desks and say, okay, give me the codes for this. Tell me what it was for. Oh, you don't know the codes. That's okay. Just tell me what trip it was for, what partner, whatever, what event. And then we'd have to get those back to her. So again, very paper-based, very manual, very lack of visibility kind of experience. Now they can quickly see what's missing. And then as those transactions get submitted, as those receipts get added to these transactions, then accounting sees that they quickly turn green and they have an updated status of all of the corporate card users and whether or not they have submitted their receipts for those transactions. So a very, very time-saving experience and very simple for people to use. They simply take a picture of their receipts with their phone, send it in, they come into an incomplete status, and then the user comes in and adds the receipt data. So, and then they select based on the time period to create the report and submit it for approval. Upon final approval, again, just like invoices that we routed and sent to GP, expense reports get converted and mapped from that layman's terms of event, travel, meals, whatever, to GL codes in AP. So just know that whether you're looking at it from an AP automation or an expense management situation, depending on what your needs in your organization are, you can find a solution with the same system using Kwiktag. We'd be happy to go into more detail with that if you have specific questions later. So don't hesitate to raise your hand for a demo request when we conclude this session. So now back to a few more content slides to just kind of go through and round this out before we open it up for questions. Another thing I want to highlight for you, I mentioned that we have Kwiktag available in 79 different screens inside a GP. It's also got a very light technical footprint. What does that mean? Well, because all of the documents are stored in Kwiktag, we're not taking up any GP database space. We're not interfering with your GP usage. We're not slowing the system down, okay? So as I mentioned, we have the option to tag, view, and search documents. There's lots of other ways we can get documents into Kwiktag. You can drag and drop emails, even attachments will come over. You can upload them here. You can scan them in, all of those sorts of things. Work queue, again, is where we complete the workflow automation processes, and then finally to have those documents created into a payable transaction entry. And what we just went through together is that end-to-end process beginning in the Kwiktag Pro client that looks and feels and functions just like GP, and then ending with the creation of the payable transaction entry inside of GP. And of course, then you can find search and share documents right from Kwiktag at any point. And then I want to share this quick video with you. Hopefully this will work. This is actually from a customer.
Like, I love this screen. This screen is just revolutionary. I think this is awesome. It's the best thing, you know, that I've seen in a product for an evolution to move forward. It's just unreal. So everybody who I've initially shown this to has been really wrapped in it, because it is essentially the GP screen, but the GP screen on steroids.
Okay, I hope that audio actually came through for you all. If not, I'll include the video when we send around the webinar recording. But it's essentially a customer testimonial who began using this product and really shared their experience and the positive acceptance and environment that it created within their organization. So using the GP Pro client. So as you think about all of the things we've talked about, AP automation, expense management, document management, I would encourage you, if you're at this point in your organizational planning for, looking for an AP automation solution, potentially considering an expense management solution, knowing that you need to go digital, right? Get rid of the paper. Think about the other areas of your business where a solution like that could apply. And when you come to Kwiktag, we can give you lots of examples, customer success stories. We can refer you to customers to talk to in addition to the video, like those that shared on the video. But also just from a real world, how do you use the system? Think about, HR and legal and contracts and onboarding and other areas of the business where there's file cabinets, right? Where there's paper, where it needs to be digital. So make sure that the system that you're looking at, and that when you're ready to make that decision, that it scales with you and is able to support your entire organization. So once you put a solution in place, some of the benefits that you'll achieve, in addition to those cost reductions of the actual cost benefit that we looked at earlier, are the reduction in paper invoice volume, kind of stating the obvious here, right? But the reduction of that paper, remember, PayStream says the source of all of the pain is actually the paper. Once you make that paper go away, a lot of those other challenges, the visibility, the inability to keep up, the lack of compliance, all of those things certainly go away or are significantly reduced as well. Certainly you're going to quickly approve invoices, and you're going to see the visibility, you're going to have visibility into the status of all of those invoices along the way. And your employees are going to increase their productivity. They're going to be happier. They're going to be more excited. In fact, I was talking to a customer a couple weeks ago that said, our team now in accounting, since we started doing this, they get to go home at 4 o'clock now. They used to be the latest ones there because they were so burdened by all of this paper. But now they leave early, or they leave on time. Go figure. So overall, of course, you're going to reduce your AP costs through automation as well. So to share with you a few members of our family, so to speak, I like to share the Kwiktag family snapshot of companies across all shapes and sizes and industries. And the reason that I share this with you is that you can see there isn't just one industry or one department or one section of, types of organizations, big, small, mid-size, or whatever, that can benefit from this. All of these organizations, from healthcare to professional sports teams, share the same challenge, share that paper problem, and have put in place a solution to help them automate and really achieve that efficiency and productivity. So think about that as you're building that business case internally and how you can help automate within your organization. So again, if you're not familiar with Kwiktag, here are a few of our highlights and things that we've done over the years. We have been in business for 21 years. We've been working inside the GP space for a very long time, about 15 of those years actually. And we were the first to integrate with the Dynamic Suite, and certainly we go the deepest from an integration standpoint. And we've got more than 120,000 business users around the globe that have gone through this sort of transformation. So you're not alone, you're in really good company, and when you're ready to have those conversations, then certainly let us know. We'll put you in touch with the right people to, to help support that decision in your organization. And a few of our technology integrations, I do want to highlight these because if you're looking for a solution and you also use some of these other products, it's really important to make sure they can work together. So in addition to Dynamics that we've talked about, binary stream, multi-entity management, or RecLogic if you're using a lot of PO creation, PO rec creation, that kind of thing, or Key to Act job cost if you've got invoices that you track from a job cost standpoint with Key to Act. So keep those things in mind as you look for a solution as well. And finally, I'd like to just share with you that we have a page specifically for TM Group as our partner, and you can visit this page, kwiktag.com/TM Group, for more information, or you can reach out to us directly and then we'll connect you with the right person on our side, as well as your contact at TM Group for more information, a discovery demo call, that kind of thing, to see if it might be the right fit for your organization. And with that, I'm going to invite Allie to come back to the conversation and share any questions that have come in.
Thanks, Mary. I don't see any questions at the moment, so maybe we should just wait a minute, see if any come in.
Okay. And look at that, we've saved 15 minutes back in your day. So we're all about the time saving and efficiency, even with a webinar. Yeah, we'll give them a minute to submit questions. I will go ahead and share something that gets asked often, and that is the production and implementation timeline. So when you start working with Kwiktag, there's kind of two different phases that you go through. The first thing that we do is assess how great is the document management need. And this is something that you won't find in in the market, in the industry. We can implement document management integrated with GP, that tag view search functionality, very, very quickly, less than a week. And we can separate that as kind of a phase one in the approach to an overall digital transformation process and set of solutions. So you can implement document management very, very quickly, usually only takes 2 to 3 days. And then if you're still kind of making the case for automation, whether for AP or expenses, we can work with you to scope that and to figure out the extent of the need in your organization. And then that can take, a few weeks or sometimes a couple of months, depending on, workflow needs, the number of people that need to be involved and all of that sort of thing. But it can go very quickly if you're looking to just make the paper go away. And then we'll work with you to scope out the process for an automation solution. So that's a question that we get frequently asked. So if it's something that you were thinking about, but didn't submit in the little question box, hopefully that helps with your planning. And maybe that gave you enough time to submit a different question if you had one on your own as well.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any questions, but I did record this and I'm going to send it out to everybody. So if you guys think of any questions along the way, feel free to reach out.
Perfect. Thanks, Allie. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Thank you so much, Mary. Have a great day, everyone.